nerds. Today we're going to be talking about UFC 252 and our predictions for who we think is going to win and what their keys to victory might be, as well, like we did with 251. So we're off of Fight Island for right now for this event, and we're back at the Apex in Vegas. So it's a smaller octagon. I'm sure for some fights it's going to make a very big difference, especially if they're grappling heavy, but we've got some good fights here. One thing to note before we talk about all the fights, there is a fight missing. It is between Ion Cutelaba and Magomed Ankalaev, and that was a light heavyweight fight, but Cutelaba got COVID. He tested positive, so that fight's not going to happen. I was actually kind of looking forward to that because that was a rematch. But besides that, everything else is back on, and the main event is a trilogy fight and a retirement fight. I mean, some people think it's not going to be a retirement fight for Daniel Cormier, but I think it is. Especially if he wins, I think he wants to go out like that. But we're going to get to that later. But for now, let's just get to the fights. Let's get to the first one, right? All right, so first fight of the night is between John Dodson and Merab Dvalishvili in the UFC men's bantamweight division. So what's really cool about this fight is John Dodson, he's actually been at 135 for a little bit before he was at 125. So when I might have actually seen him fight Demetrius Johnson a few times. He's great. He's extremely fast. He's got some power. His last win was by knockout, and before that, he lost to Peter Yan. So nothing to be ashamed of there. Like, that's the champion. That's one of his few losses in bantamweight. Now, Merab Dvalishvili has been on a tear. Now, the kid doesn't really finish people, but he shows a really varied attack when it comes. He's won like his last 3 fights via submission. Via decision, right? What's really cool about him is that he gets better at different stand-up, right? But he's primarily a wrestler, and his takedowns pretty much come at will. He ties up the legs. It's awesome. And that's why I actually favor him in this, is because where Dodson has a speed advantage when it comes to standing up and like the one-hit power, Dvalishvili can switch. If he doesn't feel comfortable standing up, I don't think John is stopping him on the takedowns. And he can pretty much, he doesn't knock anyone out, but he can pretty much leg kick, give you something up top, take it down, and hold you down for a long time. Now, I'm not saying John Dodson it's just like a pushover and he won't be able to get up. But, I mean, if you're taking over and over and over again, it wears you down, you know what I mean? And Merab is the younger guy as well. So I'm going to give this one to Merab. I think he's going to take this one. Second fight of the night will be Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda at the Featherweight division. Now, what's interesting about this is Daniel Pineda hasn't been in the UFC for like 6 years. He went to Legacy FC and then went back to Bellator as well. So from like 2014 until June this year, right? But there, he's got like some submission wins. He got like stopped due to a doctor stoppage because of a cut. And then he also had a couple no contests overturned from failed drug tests as well. Now, Herbert Burns has been on a nice tear. Like, he's got a submission, his last outing this year, and a knockout via knee. So him and his brother, Gilbert Burns, if you haven't already noticed, they're good everywhere. They have great grappling, great jiu-jitsu, and they're good standing up. So once again, I think I'm going to give this over to the more well-rounded fighter, which would be Herbert Burns. Daniel Pineda is dangerous, right? He has tons of experience, got like 26 fights, so, I mean, it's a lot of experience. I just think that the varied attack from Herbert is going to be a problem for him, because if you take him down, he's awesome. Even his last submission, it was great because the way he even got his hand underneath his opponent's neck was like during the roll. It was like he's awesome. Like, he's awesome at jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm gonna give this to Herbert Burns. That's my pick for this match. All right, this is the first fight with some big boys, the heavyweight division. We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Junior Dos Santos, right? So here's what's cool about this fight. Obviously, both of them are really good at stand-up. They do share a loss from a certain opponent, being Francis Ngannou, but Rozenstruik had a win against Alistair Overeem, and Junior Dos Santos also had he's coming off of a loss to Curtis Blades, a loss to Francis Ngannou, and a win over Derek Lewis. So, yeah. The cool thing about Junior Dos Santos, he looks great right now. Like, he's in great shape. His conditioning is awesome. It obviously looks like a little better, like visually looks a little better than Rozenstruik, but I think when it comes to the stand-up, Rozenstruik is a little bit more polished. He's a K1 K1 guy. Like, he's like the Dutch kickboxing scene. Like, that's pretty much what he's doing. It's pretty good. But if I have to say the more well-rounded game is gonna go to Junior Dos Santos, right? So I think if it stays standing up for a very long time, it's gonna go to Rosenstrike. But for Junior Dos Santos, his experience and his ability to be able to mix it up, even though he likes to stand up, he's more comfortable there, but he can mix it up. The more well-rounded game is gonna go to him. So if I had to pick, I would. This is a dangerous one. Damn, who would I pick? You know what? Gotta say effort here. We'll go with Junior Dos Santos, right? I'll say conditioning and experience and be having a more well-rounded game will win it this time. Let's go with that. The next fight, and probably a personal favorite of mine besides the upcoming main event, would be Sugar Sean O'Malley and Marlon Chito Vera. Now, that's going to be very interesting because, number one, Sean O'Malley is coming off of 2 wins from knockout. Marlon Vera is coming from, he had a loss and then a win before that. Like, he had a loss from decision his last fight, and then the one before that, he won via TKO. I think it's Andre Newell, something like that. Yes. So that was pretty good. Now, how's this fight gonna go? So in my opinion, if this stays just strictly striking, Sugar Sean is gonna take this. He's gonna take this. He is much more fluid, has better technique and great footwork, and he's not. He's much more sturdy than he was 2 years ago before his little break that he had. Right now, Marlon is, I think, overall is the bigger guy. He's definitely durable. He can take a punch. But I think his most dangerous weapon is his grappling, which he doesn't need to be on the ground for that. In that Andre Newell fight that I was telling you about, he actually started a lot of the grappling standing up. So pretty much whenever Andre would whiff a punch, he would go for like a head arm choke, and it was nuts. Like, he could do it from standing up and then take it to the ground after that. But he doesn't need to be on the floor. And if he is on the ground, that's also very, very big. So the grappling is big. And I think that's one of the biggest tests that we really have to see for Sean O'Malley is how would he handle grappling adversity? Does he need it to just stand up? And you know what? Marlon could trade, but I think his best luck would be if a grappling exchange happened. Because I believe out of the two, he is probably the stronger of the two and is definitely the much more accomplished grappler. But if it stays pure striking, Sean. So but the fight starts standing up. And Sean's last 2 fights were from knockout, very spontaneously, especially the one with Eddie Wineland last time. So I'm going to predict Sean O'Malley. I can't say it's going to be knockout, but I would say he would at least put on a striking clinic, just like he always does. Let's get to the main event, which is between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. So obviously, this is their 3rd match. This is a trilogy fight. So just to give you a quick rundown, when it comes to the first fight, that was won by Daniel Cormier via knockout or TKO, right? He actually was in like a mid of a clinch, hit him with like an overhand right, ended the fight. And then the second fight, Stipe Miocic actually won that by TKO in the 4th round after literally switching to like a flurry of body shots, just body shot after body shot, and it didn't go answered until Daniel Cormier dropped his hands, and then he went up to the head, and that was all she wrote. So now in this 3rd match, what would be the keys to victory for each of them winning? And obviously, I think for Stipe, it would be to keep the fight standing as long as he possibly can, because that's where most of his chances are. For Daniel Cormier, it would be to have more wrestling. In their last match, he wrestled a ton in the 1st round, even having Stipe like dangling over his shoulder for a little bit. Like, there's no competition with that. And if he just keeps grinding them out with the wrestling and mixing there a couple shots just to keep him guessing, I think Daniel Cormier takes this, absolutely. And he has pretty much stated that was going to be his thing. He said, put on your wrestling shoes, right? And Stipe obviously doesn't like that for a couple of reasons. One, he prefers to stand up. And 2, when it comes to being in the apex, the octagon is much smaller, which means when you are trying to back away from someone, give yourself a little bit of space, that cage comes up on you really, really, really fast. So it definitely benefits the wrestler to have the octagon be smaller. So for my prediction, I predict that Daniel Cormier is definitely going to take this, and hopefully he just rides off into the sunset with a win. I actually want that for him, and I think that'd be a great outcome for this fight. That's it for UFC 252's prediction video. After this, we're gonna do like a review of what happened in the event and what should be the fights going forward, like we did last time. If there was something, if you agree with some of these predictions, write down below. If not, tell me what you think is really gonna happen and what else you'd like to see going forward. Also, tell me some fights you want to see or which other UFC events you're really looking forward to. Okay. And honestly, that's it. Make sure you tune in. Enter the Nerd.